Mixing with Mike, plugin of the week comes from a company called AudioThing. This plugin is called Wires. Wires is an emulation of a 1970s Soviet era war based wire recorder. And what you have is a spool of wire that feeds, take up to supply reel or supply to take up reel, excuse me, passes a magnetic medium. So it passes through some recording heads and is, pretty much designed for recording. It doesn't sound that great. But for war-based technology, it's probably very sturdy, very steady, and kind of an interesting thing. For this, it's not like you're going to be running everything through this on every track as a way to just kind of get some kind of special hi-fi sound. You're not going to make a record that way. What you are going to use something like this for is for the uniqueness of the quality itself when you want lo-fi effects. And what they've done here is they've added in a whole echo section, which didn't obviously exist in the original since it was just a recording device for wartime use and communications. But adding this in adds a whole ton of character. And then what they've done is they've emulated all the flaws and interesting characteristics of the sound quality of it. Now, the actual wire itself, if you actually take a look at the original here, which I can call up, this is what the original unit looks like. You could see here, just proof positive, all in Russian. I think that's Russian. You could see here there's a cover here for this. These mechanisms, obviously, they got, they pop in and out. The wire itself is like the width of a hair, so it's super thin, which means you could probably get hours worth of recording time if it's not moving that fast on a big spool like this. I don't know what kind of crosstalk characteristics you get, meaning like one wire kind of magnetic field affecting the other. But generally, the audio quality is very lo-fi. This is 1970s technology, so this is not like there was things like analog tape that doesn't usually travel well, like in an airplane or something like that, if you're trying to record things. To take a closer look, you can kind of see the mechanism here that passes through the spool of wire. Almost looks like a spool of a fishing line or something like that. That's how thin it is. Passes through, recording heads. You can see it kind of passes through this side, around the other one, and then probably through here in opposite fashion. I'm not sure what is the record head, if there's a record and a playback head, or exactly how that works. But, there's a little place down here for the fuse box and a place to stash your weed, I guess, if you don't want to get found out by your commander when you're out on a trip. Aside from that, it's kind of an interesting idea and very unique, and I always love unique things. So I decided, I saw this, like, okay, what does this sound like? Started to play around with it, and it's like, oh, this is kind of cool. Now, there's some things here which don't look like they're on the original unit. There's actually an emulation of a speaker and a microphone, yet it doesn't seem to be any speaker or microphone sort of built into the base unit from what I could see. And there are pictures from all the different angles of stuff like that. So there's nothing there that I could see. But you do get a lot of interesting characteristics. So let's just listen to a little bit of this for a second. So I'm just going to run full mix, and I'll just kind of put it on a couple tracks, and we'll kind of, show you some things that you can kind of do with it from a creative standpoint. So one, here's without, just a quick burst of music so you get a perspective without.
Me get up and me fresh up and say yes, Lord. Me dress up with the best up on me left yard. A straight positivity me manifest.
Okay, so you've heard this 1,000 times, but this song. Now let's put it through here now, and then I'll go through a few different settings and then kind of explain a little bit of what it does. So there's a microphone emulation you could turn on off, speaker emulation you could turn on and off. Tilt EQ, I'll just leave it right down the middle. Here we go.
Me get up and me fresh up and say yes, Lord. Me dress up with the best up on me left yard. A straight positivity me manifest, and me know upon my blessings. Jah nah go press pause. Go down a head track, that's the best part. Cliff, line up already, me have a tune to bless heart. Tell them how me feeling and what we dealing.
Right, so just instantly there you could hear, just the different tonal characters that you can have straight up, if you want something to sound like it's coming from another part of the room, that put the speaker on, put the microphone on, you could hear how that colors a tone. There's things like noise and hiss. If you have the envelope off, here it will stay on the whole time. Otherwise, if the envelope is on, the noise will only come in when actually there's music audio running through it, right? So you got hiss, lovely. That's more like hum, but or buzz. That's the sound that the motor makes, right? And then that just turns it on and off as you go through. If you feed audio through, you could also do a wow and flutter effect. Now, it's not even, or more or less even, more like what you get with analog tape machines.
Me get up on me fresh up and say yes, Lord. Me dress up with the best up on me left yard. I straight positivity me manifest and me no bad mind.
Right, so you get this more like uneven kind of stuttered type of thing. There's drops, which actually maybe it has to do with like kinks in the wire or something.
Me get up on me fresh up and say yes, Lord. Me dress up with the best
Right,
up
so
on
you
me.
can bring in those characteristics. There's clicks,
Me get up on me fresh up and say yes, Lord. Me dress up with the best up.
which you could bring in. All right. There's a tilt EQ, which will allow you to lean it more high frequency or low frequency.
Me get up on me fresh up and say yes, Lord. Me dress up with the best up on me left yard. I straight positivity me manifest and me.
So it obviously doesn't have full frequency response no matter what, but if it's just capturing the human voice and that's what it's designed for, that's what you get. Now, those are the main section, the main component parts right here. There's also an input section so you can control the input level. Now, actually, I have this driven up so you can actually drive it and get different characteristics I found out of it. By basically it will driving more level into it will give you some form of compression. It actually has a built-in soft clip at the output, which you could turn on or off. I have found that I like it better on. You could do a wet-dry control on it, right, that you have here. And there's also the start-stop, which has a speed on it.
Me get up on me fresh up and say yes. Positivity me manifest and me no
Which is kind of cool. In a way, I wish, because when we get to the delay section, you'll see here they have a feature here which allows you to tie it to like beats, and stuff. That would be kind of cool here, so you at least time the beat. So when you trigger it and it stops over the course of a bar or whatever based on tempo. That might be a cool addition to it. But otherwise, that functionally you could time it out, and that adds in that component, which is something that it obviously has a different flavor or different characteristic from the classic vinyl or tape machine kind of slow down type of effect, which is actually very similar. It does more of the pitch dive kind of thing. So you got the lo-fi aspect. And now when you bring in the echoes, you get all kinds of fun stuff here.
Me get up on me fresh up and say yes, Lord. Me get up on the best up on me left yard. I straight positivity me manifest and me no bad
So you can get an idea like how much fun this could be just by kind of playing around simply, just kind of dialing some things in. Now, from a performance perspective, if you wanted to really just kind of do it that way, just activate all of the settings on there into automation and then just record it. Just run it into automation and then make all your changes, and you could kind of turn it almost into a performance thing, dial something in, and then once you kind of get it basically in a place, rewrite any aspect of it, or any particular part of the automation that you want to edit or take out or adapt. And you could see how you could really dial in just some sort of interesting tones. So I just wanted to do at least one example here. Just one other couple things. Sorry. So there's one thing. So you have the time control here, which gives you, obviously you could do it that way, or you could do it just in milliseconds, right? So it'll give you from 1 second down to 1 millisecond. And so you'll have the delay time things kind of factored in here. You have feedback control. All that stuff is pretty straightforward. You turn it on. That's, again, pretty straightforward. The level is the amount of it. Now, there's a mix control here, and there's a wet-dry control or mix control here. This is a mix. This output master section is a mix of the dry, unprocessed signal that feeds in blended with the full affected signal, right? So this is everything that includes the the mic, speaker, wire sound, all the artifacts, noise, etc., and delays mixed with the dry signal. When you have the mix control set here, when you have mix, what it does is it passes the direct signal, which has gone through the mic speaker setting, hiss, motor, noise, all the drops out, clicks, tilts, all that other sort of stuff with the wire sound, right? That goes through to the mix control here, unaffected as normal, and then this level control would mix in the amount of wet signal that you're adding in with the dry signal. And if you're in wet only, then that would be like in a return configuration, right, where you leave this 100% wet. And now you're only getting delayed signal. So there's no direct signal feeding to this mix control. So just got to give you an understanding of like the differences when you see two wet, mix or wet dry controls, understanding what the differences are. All right, so let's close up shop on this one. There's one like thing here, and in this mix and working on it, that I had set up something here. There was an effect which was done with some Sound Toy stuff, and Echo Boy and Filter Freak, and I wanted to kind of do something a little bit more interesting. So I set the delay here. I have the mix control, so you still hear the original sound, right? It's 100%. Speaker off, mic off. That must be by default. I didn't really do anything there, so I'll just put the envelope on so it only occurs there. Master control, I'm driving the input just to kind of put a little bit more grit on it. And so I want you to just hear this intro line here. And if I kind of slide out of the way here, scroll down, it's this little bit right here.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I'm feeling fine. Why? Yeah.
Okay, so here now there was an effect here, which is with the Filter Freak and Echo Boy, which sounds like.
Oh, I'm feeling fine. Why?
Okay, and now so I just put this up to do something different.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, I'm feeling fine.
All with kind of a little bit, and then I can put a little bit of, wow in there.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, I'm feeling fine.
So that's not going to go so much. There's not a lot of pitch component there. Let's listen to it.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, I'm feeling fine. Me get up and me fresh up and say yes, Lord. Me dress up with.
And that was kind of the basic thing, but I can shape the tone just to give you some ideas about how I can just sort of shape this again here. And there's just a couple of other things I just want to go over real quick with this, but here's one is the microphone.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, I'm feeling fine.
Right, or you could put the tilt EQ to make it warmer.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, I'm feeling fine.
It's just kind of a cool. It's like it has a very unique tonal character that I think is hard to just sort of throw up there with any kind of standard delay or sort of manufacture. I think that's kind of part of the one of the many cool things about this. So just kind of playing around with it. There's also some global settings things. One of the things I wanted to go over. You can clear the buffer. What this does, it just means that if you have these repeating delays, they'll just sort of stop when you stop the playback, right? That type of thing. The start and stop, you could set it up so it does the start and stop with the wet signal only, et cetera, et cetera. You could turn on or off the animation, add some Doppler to the echo, Doppler effect. The other thing that you can do here, which is cool, is you can listen to some of the original recording that's on here. It's probably not going to do anything now. Oh, look at that. Maybe it's because I raced over it. If you actually load up an instantiation and you click on the reel here, you see this light up, and then you'll hear, some kind of a fighter pilot or something, or some kind of communications. And maybe what they did was they took whatever was on the wire recorder when they got this to emulate, and then just played it back and used it as a sample. So I'm not exactly sure why it's not playing through, but that's the basics of it. Anyway, it's a very unique plugin. If you're looking for something sort of really offbeat and kind of unique, just to kind of throw and kind of play around with it, I think you get a good idea of what this is all about. And it's a cool one. I really dig it. I loaded up the demo, and then after playing with it for a minute, thought it's like, oh, this is actually just very interesting enough that it's worth throwing on. It's just like a very unique tool to kind of have in the toolbox. So there you have it. There's a Mixing with Mike plugin of the week from AudioThing, Wires.